Hello! This is a reading wrap-up for August, and I've been reading so many books. I don't know what day it is. It's towards the end of August, but not the end yet, and I've already read so much. Anyway, hello, I'm Jenny Fern. Welcome to my library. I'm a chaotic neutral mechanical engineer who's really into permaculture and wants to talk about books. So let's talk about books. This morning, the sun was streaming in through my window in the morning when I was trying to sleep in, and I felt very blind and flashbanged. I was like trying to gradually wake up while like squinting and stuff, so I started doing this, and my husband told me that I looked exactly like the guy from Clockwork Orange, Alex, and then he did a side-by-side compare, and oh my god, he's not wrong at all. Anyway, hello! Let's talk about books! So this month I went really hard. I read a bunch. I'm trying to read stuff from my physical bookshelves so that I can transfer more books from my unread to my read shelves. My read shelves have more space. I have one in my bedroom as well. There's books on here, for sure, but they're not like super packed. I have had a trend of getting new bookshelves, so I have a whole room in there where I could put more bookshelves, but my unread books go on my built-ins. They're super full. I went and got more books at a thrift store last week and undid this work that I've done. But anyway, that's why I'm trying to read the books that I own. I also read a ton of library books, which I'll get into at some later point. So let me start with The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I feel like I read this a long time ago, but it was at the beginning of this month. This is a middle grade story about a little magical girl who gets picked up by a witch in the woods. She's left as a sacrifice, and the witch raises her. It's a story of like found family, real family, friendship, that kind of thing. It's very magical. It's very like never-ending story vibes. It was quite long and quite dense in like stuff that happens. I'm not great with like a lot of characters. I have a bit of a hard time connecting. I make myself feel like a sociopath when I say stuff like that, but it's true. I have a bit of a hard time with it. So anyway, this doesn't have a ton of characters, but when it starts, we're like following several different plot lines and then they converge. And I wasn't super into that at the beginning, but then I got more and more into it, and it was good. Solid book. I thought this was going to be like an absolute new favorite because of how other folks that I watch on BookTube talk about it, but it's not. It's just a solidly good book. I read this, Nasty Stinky Sneakers by Eve Bunting. This was from my Little Free Library. This was donated. I steward a Little Free Library in front of my house, and if you want to see more Little Free Library content, I have that on this channel. I loved how the cover looked. I loved the whole vibe of this entirely. The concept of this story is so silly. There is a sneaker company that is hosting a stinkiest sneaker contest in this small town, or medium-sized town, whatever. And if you have the smelliest sneakers, you get 3 free pairs of sneakers for like you and some friends. Our main character, he lives in an apartment with his parents. They're having a hard time making ends meet. He has a little sister and he has a best friend, and he wants to get sneakers for himself, his sister, and his best friend. And he's like, knows that his parents can't really afford his new sneakers, so he's really trying to win this competition. His main enemy is this bully who is also trying to win the sneaker competition. He's like using dirty means. Anyway, his sneakers go missing and he tries to find them, and he thinks that the bully takes them. So that's basically how this goes. I definitely did enjoy it. It's not the best writing. It's very similar to Goosebumps in terms of structure and writing. It is a young child's chapter book. But I had a fun time with it. I could definitely picture it. Very nostalgic looking when I pictured it. It looked very like Halloween Town or like Goosebumps. I gotta say both of these actually felt weirdly autumnal. I also read this book. This is called The Man Who Made Wine by J.M. Scott. I thought when I first picked this up that this might be a memoir, but it's not. It is a novel. And it's just a very simple story of this winemaking guy, this vineyard caretaking guy. He lives in France and he recounts his whole life on this one evening when he goes into the wine cellar and samples the various years of wine that spanned his career at this vineyard. We go through important moments of the vineyard and his personal life because they're so intertwined. I read this when I was sick and I loved it. I think if I hadn't read this like in one real sitting one day, maybe I wouldn't have connected with it as much, but the way that I read this and how it was there for me when I felt bad was like really, really nice and comforting, and I really, really enjoyed it. That was a nice surprise. I also read Weasels in the Attic by Hiroko Oyamada. I picked this up because I read The Factory last year, and I wanted to do this year reading a second book from like a 5-star author, and this was the book that I picked out. I'm now actually extremely interested in picking up The Hole by Hiroko Oyamada because the plot sounds extremely interesting to me. Now, Weasels in the Attic was contemplative, strange, quiet, and like atmospheric. We follow this main guy and his wife and like their relationship with some friends. And this guy, he first goes and visits this friend of his friend. They go visit together. He had owned a aquarium shop, so he has all of these fish, and the vibes are really interesting. And then we go and visit that friend, not the fish guy, but the original friend. We visit him in his rural and old house that he's moved into that has a weasel infestation. We visit them twice. And I really enjoyed the structure of this story and the atmosphere. I thought it was so interesting to visualize what was going on. And then there were these weird internal moments as well. I think this is kind of what you take from it. I can imagine reading this and not getting a lot out of it, but you can kind of get more out of it if you want to. I enjoyed it, but not as much as The Factory. It's such a thick book. I do not gravitate towards thick books, and I feel like in this YA era, like thick books were like important to people. This is Little Brother by Cory Doctorow. This is about a group of teenage hackers who get detained by Homeland Security on suspicion of being associated with a gigantic terrorist attack that struck San Francisco. And I liked so much about this book, like so many disparate aspects, like the setting of San Francisco, having a group of hackers. I really enjoy the movie Hackers. I think is such a cool movie, and I like the idea of learning more about hacking, although I don't know if I'm gonna really go into that. The back of the book does include a lot of resources for if you do want to get interested and started with that, which is very interesting. There's a lot of real hacking stuff in this book, which I also enjoyed quite a lot, learning organically about those things. I thought the character was a little weak. I thought the main romantic relationship was just stupid. I don't know how to say this without sounding like snooty and mean. So this is a YA book, and it really has like a bit of a classroom feel of like how it's teaching you about your rights as an American and how the world should be. It's like not nuanced really at all, which makes sense for, I feel this way about myself. I feel like I was not very nuanced as a teenager. I was very like resolute in certain things. It was all right. There was a lot that I took out of it that I really did enjoy, but I think it was just a little bit too long and a little bit too much. Like there was this whole thing, there's this whole like backstory about LARPing that like I understand that it made sense for understanding this character. Like if I was the author, like maybe I would have written this so that I understood the character more, but I was like, I don't know why I have to read this completely unrelated story about LARPing. That's how I felt. I like a story to be trim, concise, to have what it needs to have. It was a little bloated. That, for me, is one of the ways to get me to not be super happy when I finish reading a book. Overall, I did like it and I don't regret reading it. The Employees by Olga Ravn from my library. I think I could have had a more ideal session reading this book. Maybe if I read it more in one sitting, or if it was like maybe on a rainy day in winter. I did read this in several settings at the beginning when I was like super sleepy trying to go to bed, and I think it made me very confused. And it is a bit of a confusing book. I feel like it's kind of similar to The Factory in that way, of like how confused I was when I was first reading The Factory and how confused I was first reading The Employees is kind of similar. The premise of The Employees is we are getting statements from various employees on this spaceship who are working. They're working their jobs. They're taking care of like, it's like not super clear exactly what's going on, but they visited some planet, they got some stuff, and they're kind of like taking care of that stuff. And we have both human and humanoid, like artificially constructed humanoid beings, and they work together. And there's definitely some conflict and contention between the humanoid and human coworkers, and there's some really, really interesting thought experiments basically going on with these humanoids of like, what would it be like to have a humanoid coworker? What would their working life be like? What would their life be like if they are purpose-built to be an employee? So it's very interesting. Shit goes fucking crazy, and I really, really enjoyed my time, especially towards the middle and end of this book. I would love to own this one. It was very fun and really right up my alley in terms of what it explores, the setting, the whole vibe. I will finish Aria Volume 4 before the end of the month, and it is a manga where these pretty girls row gondolas in a Venice on terraformed Mars. You get to learn fun stuff about Venice. It's very pretty, and it's like friendship, girlhood stuff. It's just cute, and it's very like comforting. I had read a few volumes of Flying Witch beforehand. I like really don't like the artwork in Flying Witch. I think the main character especially looks fucking horrible. But it's similar vibes that I get from Flying Witch of just being like comfortable and sweet and like very seasonal. Sorry, I have ants in my house. Can I do a quick aside? I have previously in my life dealt with ants that are really into sweet things. They can be really annoying. They get into like your sugar. If you have like any sticky stuff on the counter, they'll flock to it. And it can be really detrimental to the kitchen. I've also had ants that go into like my potted plants and like try to live in my plant pots. Those are also annoying, but they're really actually not that bad until I go to water my plants. Now, this year is the first year that I've dealt with like these meat eating like protein jacked ants. They're really fast and like swarmy, and they've been going after the cat's food. It's just been a nightmare. Anyway, I just feel like I have ants on me all the time. So I did something this month that I thought would be fun, and it was to scroll my library system's available now random, to go through the list randomly. I have read random books from my library before. It doesn't always end up like great, so I haven't committed to doing that again, but I wanted to look up like random manga because I've been in a bit of a dearth of good anime. Now I'm on Doten, which I love, and I'm watching that every week as it comes out. But before that, I was like finished with Apothecary Diaries and had absolutely no idea what to do with myself. So I've been trying to explore new ones that I might like, but I'm really bad at like picking it from the title. So I got some random manga, scrolled through random, picked the first 3 manga that showed up, and then went to the first volume so that I could read from the beginning, because it was like, it would be like volume 11 or something. So I read Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle, volume 1. This was fun, but so vapid. The plot is that there's a princess. She has been kidnapped by the Demon King and placed in his castle, and she's like being tortured, but not very effectively. And she is trying to sleep. For the life of her, she's trying to get comfortable and sleep. She's so tired. And so she goes around and like gets things to help her to sleep. So like there are these sheet ghosts, and she takes their bodies and makes like sheets for her bed. And it's like that ridiculous the entire time. There's no character development is the thing. It's just a silly story. I also started reading Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead, Volume 1. I think I will continue on with this series because I actually really enjoyed it. This character is so relatable in certain ways. He's a salaryman. He like started this job, and then the last 3 years of his life, he's just been hating. He's worked so long and he hates his job. And he is now in a zombie apocalypse, and he's having the time of his life because he now doesn't have to go to work. His boss has turned into a zombie. He is free, and he is trying to start living like a human again. I found him relatable. Komi can't communicate. I have seen this pop up quite a lot on like when looking for anime, and I was always curious about it. Basically, it's set in a school. There's this really popular and beautiful and well put together girl that the main character is sat next to, and he's like a new guy at the school. He's kind of awkward. Nobody likes him. At least that's how he feels in his head. He like feels very much like nobody likes him. And he finds out that she doesn't talk. Like, she has a really hard time talking to people. And she'll try to talk and she'll just like stammer and not be able to get her words out. And so he is trying to help her make genuine friends. And I really like the idea of having somebody who's like so popular, but who doesn't actually have any real connection with people, because she literally doesn't talk to anybody. I don't know, I felt like this one was also fairly shallow, and it's like super, super short stories. I don't really want that. I also read Unmasking Autism as an audiobook from my library by Devon. I really, really enjoyed this. I felt very seen and heard in this. I have not pursued an official diagnosis. I have just been exploring autism this year For a long time, I avoided even looking into it. I was like, nah, it's not possible. It couldn't be me. It could never be me. And then I just like was like, can't possibly look into it though. It was helpful to hear, especially from a masking perspective. If I am autistic, I am definitely a masking person. And I've been trying to unmask, allow myself to be more truly and authentically myself. So I am working on that, hopefully not burn out. I think some of the times that I've been deeply, deeply sad and just in a state of absolutely no energy for anything at all in life has been burnout and not like depression. Basically like the half year before I started this YouTube channel, I just had no energy to do anything. I'm happy where I'm at now, and I'm very happy to have read this book. There's a whole bunch of different stuff that it explores that I hadn't actually heard of. I did binge a ton of autistic YouTube creator videos, and I did read a lot about autism when I was first looking into if I might be that way, if that might be the way that my brain works. Even with you're just watching loads and loads of content, I didn't hear about some of the things that this book talks about. I would like to own this book as well. And I read the Apothecary Diaries Volume 2 manga. Again, just love and eat up everything that's Apothecary Diaries. Speaking of, I listened to 2 Apothecary Diaries audiobooks, maybe 3? I don't know. I have to look back. I have to look back at the last month. I have to write everything down that I read because I actually don't know. My battery's dying. I'm losing steam. So I'm gonna call it quits here and I'll check in later. I hope you're having a wonderful August. I am, although I am very tired this month. I feel like I cannot catch like a good rest over the weekend and be prepared to go through a full week again. That's how I've been feeling pretty much all month. I'm getting pretty worn out. I think tomorrow is the 31st and then August is all done. So I guess I technically have some days that I could finish reading something, but we'll see. I have talked about a few things already, and here's where we can see the rabbit hole that I fell into this month, and actually quite a heaping spoonful of my reading. The Apothecary Diaries light novel, volumes 8, 9, 10, and 11. I have fallen even deeper and deeper into that hole. I am having just a wonderful time, and I'm a little worried once I'm all caught up with everything, all of the material that exists. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'll probably reread it, honestly. I definitely love the Apothecary Diaries. Really, really love the characters, especially because I'm so deep into the series. I can't really talk about much without giving things away, so I won't. I also read a short story collection from NetGalley called Whites by Mark Doten. This was a very unique reading experience for me. It is a short story collection all centered around like whiteness in America, and a lot of it hinges on the politics of our current time. So like weird QAnon stuff, a lot of race related stuff, as one could imagine, being focused on whites, and also deep into the effects of the internet on people and how they think. Some of those stories were super impactful and incredibly in my brain forever now. I would recommend it. It's uncomfortable. Very frequently it's an uncomfortable book to step into because we definitely are around some characters who are either insufferable or just so flawed that you don't see any way out for them. So it's definitely not escapist. It is plunging you right into the things that you might not want to think about. I also read an additional short story from Invitation, the collection of short stories by Mi-Jin Kim that I read most of it last month. That was also from NetGalley. I read Father. Okay, now I think I'm just freaking out for some reason. I have extremely high anxiety right now. I think these are all of the books that I read. So I need to say goodbye. Oh my god, you're so, oh my god. August was actually an excellent reading month. I think my balance of reading the books from my shelves and reading books that I was really interested in, really being able to do both of the things that I want helped me to read a lot. And I'm really happy with most of what I read. The experiences that I had were what I wanted. I am leaving. I'm gonna go have a breakdown and goodbye.